Well, hello and a very warm welcome to Paws For Thought, brought to you by the Greyhound Board of Great Britain. This is the Greyhound Derby special, episode 1. I'm Dave Clark and I'm very glad welcoming to Ian Fortune, the voice of Irish Greyhound Racing, the encyclopedia of Irish Greyhound Racing. Ian, how are you?
I'm good, Dave. You can keep going if you want. A few more compliments would be lovely in this on this Wednesday morning.
Well, we've had the Irish Derby. We'll chat a little bit about that. That's only just happened, Ian. But the big one is here, the English Greyhound Derby. We've got 96 hopes lining up at Nottingham. 8 heats on Friday night, 8 heats on Saturday night, and I'm sure we're buzzing for it. It's the big one.
Yeah, well, it's funny enough. This called pause for thought, but I haven't had a time to have a pause for thought because it's just been so crazy the last few weeks. I know it's the same on both sides of the pond because of the lockdown that we really just had so many good top class competitions to get stuck into, and now just what you say, a week or two after the Irish Derby, we're straight into the English Derby, and I know it's going to have huge attention here in the Emerald Isle. Massive interest, of course. Apart from our own runners, we always take great interest in the English Derby. It's a special place in our heart over here, as you can judge by our rating parties and the sizes of them over the last few years.
Absolutely. And, it is the pinnacle of greyhound racing, as the Irish Derby is over in Ireland. In the UK, the English Derby is the race everyone wants to win. It's why trainers train dogs. It's why breeders breed dogs to breed that champion. And, of course, why owners own dogs as well. It's what you strive for.
Yeah, listen, it's the pinnacle of your sport. That's the way it is. Like you grew up in the tracks of London, and all that was ever in your mind was the road to Wimbledon, or you'd be too young for White City. And in more recent years, of course, Toaster and Nottingham. But no, that's what you're in the sport for. Nobody buys a dog to go, oh, I want to run this dog in an A9. Listen, we all love our graded raters, but when it comes down to it, we're here for the big one. We're here to win a derby, or we're here to win a classic. And in terms of the UK, there's no bigger race certainly than the English Derby.
Absolutely. And you mentioned White City, where it all began, 1927 entry badge. And in recent years, we've, of course, been at Wimbledon. We had a couple of years at Toaster. And last year was our first at Nottingham. And it was a great success, Ian.
Yeah, certainly was a great success from an Irish point of view, but it was a great success from a racing point of view. I thought it was a tremendous derby. I thought the lack of the quarter-final run over the 500-meter trip was ideal, and I think we saw the best possible racing throughout. We saw some brilliant performances. Obviously, the favourite in the final was Magical Bale. He was imperious through the competition. Luck wasn't on his side in the final, and as it was a 1-2-3 for Ireland. But achieving something similar to that any other year is going to be very, very hard indeed, especially given the strength of the quality this year. But yeah, really looking forward to Nottingham. Really took to it last year. Even prior to its derby, I'd been taking an interest because it had that Monday night slot on Racing Post television. You get familiar with these tracks, and you know what you expect from these tracks and what type of dog you want, and it just suited my eye. I like a strong running greyhound rather pure out and out early speedster, and I think we saw the best of it in Nottingham last year. We saw dogs with blistering early, we saw dogs finishing at speed, and we saw dogs with great middle pace. And yeah, all in all, a really, really enjoyable derby last year.
Yeah, I'd echo that, Ian. More than anything, it's a fair track. You can win from the front. Of course, the Derby champion last year, Priceless Blake, did exactly that. But strong running dogs, there were very little unlucky losers throughout the Derby. And I think, as you say, the cream rose to the top.
Yeah, if you look at the actual Derby final, like you had two or three of the speedsters. Magical Bale was the obvious one. He was rocket into the corner, and Price's Blake was another one that was flying out of traps, getting there. But then Ballymactaz and Skywalker Logan were close second and third, both very much 600-yard greyhounds in Ireland, wanting a real test of stamina, and they weren't beaten all that far. So it just goes to show, in even just in that little test, sort of that the final alone was evidence of what type of dog can win or go close in Nottingham.
Okay, and all the action this year kicks off on Friday night. 8 heats on Friday, 8 heats on Saturday. A slightly truncated format, a shorter format this year, over 5 rounds rather than the traditional 6. We're throughout October, the final on the 31st of October. And Ian, we won't be watching in shorts and t-shirts during the summer as we have been in the past. It's more likely to be a woolly hat and a scarf come the 31st of October.
Yeah, sure will, and it's worth keeping in mind. You know yourself, when the mist descends, when the fog hits, when the real cold air bites, it can have an effect on certain dogs and not others. And some dogs revel in it, some dogs don't. But I'm sure the track will be prepared to perfection, so it won't be a track issue. It'll just be more of a climate issue. But Yeah, really looking forward to it. And I'm not too worried about the 5 weeks. Obviously, it won't be in the future, but 96 greyhounds, 3 to qualify each night. It can't be any fairer than that. 5 straight weeks, still an awesome test of a greyhound.
Absolutely. And all the action, of course, will be live on Racing Post Ground TV. You can watch it in your betting shops as well. There's been some tremendous Derby winners down the years, some sensational moments. I'll just put you on the spot, Ian, just quickly. Is there anything that sticks out for you? As I say, there've been some magical moments. What's the first one that springs to mind?
First one springs to mind for me is because I was a young fella. We used to time our holidays with the English Derby final. My father would bring us to London. We'd spend 2 or 3 days there for the English Derby, and then off to Spain or Portugal, whatever. We were lucky enough to get a foreign holiday in. And I remember being in Plough Lane for Farlow Melody's Derby success. I was behind the commentary box. My father was commentating 4D with the legendary Micheál O'Murhertig, and I never, ever forget the noise I experienced that night to Wimbledon. I genuinely thought my ears were going to burst. I would have been 14 years of age, or just gone 14 years of age, and it was just incredible. And obviously an Irish winner helped, but it was the sense of occasion. Like, I have a similar memory of Moaning Glad. I don't, was it the following year, the year after that, but just those nights back then, it was raucous. Like, yeah, the place was rocking. Do you know what I mean? It was like being at an unbelievable gig. It wasn't just a sporting event. This was an occasion, and those really spring to mind. In more recent times, of course, Loyal Honcho, very special to me. But Seamus Graham was like an uncle to me. He trained all our dogs, and after Premier Fantasy, that was very special. But no, from an initial memory, Farlow Melody, it's gonna take some occasion to unship that one.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you can catch that one on YouTube if you've not seen that one, and really soak up the atmosphere through your computer screen. One that it just immediately springs to mind for me, and one that you'll also be able to enjoy on YouTube, is of course Westmead Hawk's second Derby, 2006, arguably the greatest ground we've ever seen in the UK, and the iconic commentary from Errol Bryant as well. He's got there again. He's an icon. He's superlative. He's Westmead Hawk. Check that out. I mean, that's hairs on the back of the neck stuff. Right, so let's talk about this year's Derby then, Ian. We've just had the Irish Derby. That was only 2 weeks ago. Very similar to over here. In Ireland, a lot of work went in just to get that Derby on.
Yeah, listen, it's well noted that we were behind closed doors for the last few weeks of it. The first 2 rounds, there were crowds in the restaurant. I'm afraid that all shut down. But it was still a very enjoyable Derby, be it a very different Derby and experienced in very different ways. If it wasn't for the pandemic, we probably wouldn't be in this situation having these podcasts. It's something that's really taken off, the interaction from people at home as regards social media and how you view greyhound racing. And listen, good things will come out of it. It'll be a very different Derby in terms of participation and atmosphere, but have no doubt, it almost adds extra focus on the racing itself and the action and the canine athletes. And I suppose that can only be a good thing.
Absolutely, and hats off to all involved, the Track Nottingham, the GBGB, the sponsors, Star Sports and ARC. Because we lost the Euros, that's been postponed. Wimbledon tennis was cancelled, but all the work's gone in. And it was very important, Ian, to have both an English and Irish Derby this year.
Very much so, Dave. As we say, like it's the one area where it sort of focuses your attention all year. In Shelbourne Park and in Ireland, we think of September, Irish Derby time. Now, as it was, the English Derby didn't happen this year, and in its traditional slot, it was going to be a very early slot, the earliest of all time, I believe. But as it is, it's lovely timing after our Derby. It's not clashing with any. Okay, it's the Irish Laurels over here, but it doesn't really. They're a different type of dog.
Yeah.
We can really get straight into the English Derby now, and we have a line of form where some of these dogs that are going over, and some of the dogs that are actually now British trained, have already run our Derby, and we have a line of form there. And all of a sudden, your thirst is up, your taste is there for it. Let's keep going. Like let's keep this Derby action coming thick and fast. And I've no doubt that there will be an absolutely massive interest from Ireland this year, be it with smaller numbers, but in terms of those watching from the comfort of their couch via Racing Post television, you'll find an unprecedented amount of interest from Ireland.
Well, let's talk about that Irish interest then, Ian, because it's a select few, but a very, very talented bunch across the Irish Sea. You filled the first 3 home last year. You must be confident that you're going to be there or thereabouts again.
We'd like to think we'd have certainly 3 or 4 in the semi-finals, and then after that, sure, you never know what might happen. If you'd said to me this time last year, or beg your pardon, like in the equivalent time prior to the English Derby last year, the Priceless Blake will won the English Derby, I'd have said, listen, he's coming as a travelling companion for a couple. He has no chance. And a couple of months later, there he was, the English Derby champion. Yeah, we're a small team, 14 dogs. It was to be 15, one dropped out, so we're down to 14. But they are talented. There's one or two where I'd say, listen, that has no chance of winning a derby, but they're still capable of going around or two. And we'll talk about one or two of the favourites later on. But you look at even Graham Holland's sort of supposed second, third, fourth strings, the likes of Black Parachute, the likes of Ballydoyle Valor, Wolf, and even Feudal Spirit. Like all 4 of them greyhounds can really run. Pat Buckley has, the likes of Glengar Bale, Doolan Duke, Dearjet Sydney, like hugely talented dogs, and with the right profile, they're likely enough raced. They have a bit of youth on their side, and they continue to progress. I wouldn't rule out any of those dogs going to an English Derby decider. Then John McGee, different type of team for him. Katunda Logan is a talented dog, real good early speed, maybe a little bit dependent on defence, but not as much as he used to be. Swanley Flight and Swanley Chick can both run in their own right, but it would be a major surprise if either of them won the Derby. And then, of course, Noel Hare has one that we'll be mentioning again later on. But all in all, like a very strong team, where you could go as far as to say that 7 or 8 of them could possibly win the Derby.
And obviously, with logistics and everything that's going on in the world right now, the approach that those guys have taken is to plot up over here. They're based here in UK kennels, so there is less travelling over the next 5 weeks. It's a huge commitment from them, but again, that really just highlights the importance of the occasion ahead.
Yeah, very much so. And people have spoken about the money involved and the stud fees in the future and whatnot. It's about prestige. It's about getting over there and winning the English Derby. How many trainers can say they've won an English Derby? How many Irish trainers can say they've won an English Derby? Paul Hennessy's won 2. He's not coming over. He just doesn't have the strength. There's no point in him coming over. But you look through the rest of the names. Ger McKenna, Matt O'Donnell, Dolores Ruth, Seamus Graham, Ian Riley. Some really legendary names going back to the likes of Paddy Horan, Paddy Dumpy back in the early days. Paddy Horan brought over Mick the Miller, but that's it. There's some of the best greyhound trainers in Irish history that have yet to win an English Derby. Liam Dowling has gone close. Owen McKenna has gone close. Pat Buckley has gone close. Graham Holland has gone very close. He had a favourite in the final in Toaster, of course, with Claire's Rocket. So, it means a lot to these people, and it's nothing to do with the money. It's nothing to do with it's why do you climb Mount Everest? Because it's there, because it's a challenge, and that's the way they see it over here. To go over and beat the English in their backyard, that would mean something to us.
Yeah, I know that would mean a lot to you as well, because you quite enjoy that aspect of the derby. Right, we've mentioned the Irish entry, and that kind of seamlessly links into the favourites for this competition, because you dominate the betting as well. New in session has been heavily gambled, from big prices into sort of 8-10 to 1. Tell us about him, because he's a very, very lightly raced greyhound. He's owned by an Englishman, Simon Taylor, who recently won the Irish Derby with his Newin Taylor. Is he the dog to beat, I suppose? Is he a worthy favourite?
He's been my choice for, well, basically since it was said after his elimination from the Irish Derby he was coming over here. He's not the finished article, like, don't get me wrong. You wouldn't expect that after 8 starts, but he's rapidly becoming it. And I think he's made for Nottingham. I was very impressed with his trial. Forget about the times. You win nothing with times. The way he ran the track, the way he ran the opening bend, the way he went into the corner, just screamed to me a dog that'll be doing 29-20 by the end of this Derby. And I'm hoping that, obviously he's a very tough opening round heat, but he's very talented. He can go up strong. He's powers on the back, and he stays every inch of this 500 meters. He'll probably stay even a bit further. He really is an exceptionally talented greyhound, and I think we've yet to see the best of him. Obviously his best form has been in Clonmel. That's because he hasn't had the opportunity in Shelbourne Park as such. Has one win in Shelbourne Park, beat a certain dog called Pestana. It's not a bad line of form. And then his next start in Shelbourne was in the opening round of the Derby, where just things didn't go his way. He was up against 3 of his own kennel companions, and they all just got in each other's way on the opening corner, and he was badly balked by the Black Parachute dog, who we'll no doubt mention as well. But no, this is an exceptionally fast greyhound. As I said, not the finished article, but certainly a dog that deserves to be very much in the equation.
Yeah, the other one I really wanted to mention to you about in terms of favourites is second or third favourite in Lenson Bocco, who of course won the Irish Greyhound Derby last year for English owners. But he's not looked the same dog, but there is still confidence behind him. He's still certainly a fast dog. Can he bounce back to winning ways and do what would be a remarkable thing and win an Irish Derby and then an English Derby?
I thought after last year's Irish Derby, this dog will win the English Derby as well. That was the way I saw it. Obviously, with Euro competition gone, they didn't take in the likes of the Easter Cup earlier in the year. He had no race for 8 months. He came back. He ran in the Champion Stakes in Shelburne, won his semi-final, beating the likes of, beating some very talented greyhounds. Took a step in the final, got done early. And then all of a sudden you're going, well, he's been beaten once. He's never been beaten twice in a row. Beaten the next night, beaten the next night. The sparkle wasn't quite there. But do you put that down to the bounce, the fact that maybe he's a changed dog? I don't know. I spoke to Graham. Graham is confident that the dog will arrive in absolutely tip-top shape. But whether the same sort of early speed is there, maybe he has changed his racing style. We have seen that in the past. I'd be wary about backing him anti-post until I do see him in action in the first and second round. Listen, if you had to take a couple of points less after the opening round, but be confident enough that the dog still has that early sparkle, fair enough. He wouldn't be one I'd be getting too involved at the moment. But as I said, Graham Holland's not going to leave this dog all too shy. Like, this dog will be ready to race, and we'll know soon enough whether he's the same greyhound he was last year.
Now, of course, the Derby, both Derbies are open to both dogs and bitches. The fairer sex take part. And when you look at the betting, Ian, beyond New In Session and Lenson Bocco, the next Irish trained runner is actually Kulavani Chick, who is a bitch. She looks tailor-made to Nottingham. We've said how demanding the trip is. You need to be very, very strong, and she kind of fits that profile. How good is she? Bitches have won the Derby before. I think of Dolores Rocket in the 70s. She was very special. She won a Derby and a St. Ledger. Is Kulavani Chick special enough to go all the way?
She could win a St. Ledger. There's no question about that. She's a special talent. She's very, very strong, as you've said. I just don't know if she's sharp enough, but she's extremely strong. She is quite similar to Ballymactaz, who of course ran up the English Derby last year. She was a bitch, and she went very close, but she beat in half a length. She's an exceptionally strong lady. She's she's going to get her draw most nights because she is a wide seed, and she's certainly a wide seed. That's where she wants to be. That's where she'll race. She should avoid traffic on most nights, and the key to her success will probably be where she gets around on the third bend, because nothing, and I mean very few in this competition, will be coming home as hard as her up the home straight. That long run in Nottingham, we see races change complexion so often. She's made for that. And whether she's sharp enough now is another question. I'd be backing one or two of the other Irish dogs ahead of her, but she'd certainly be one in my mind that if she was a big price each way terms, and as regards top bitch market, well, I'd be all over her.
Yeah, well, one to follow out there for you then. They're one for the fairer sex, Kulavani Chick.
Yeah.
Let's move on to sort of the wild cards and the outsiders. Are there any stories sort of bubbling under the radar, anything catch your eye, Ian, that might surprise us?
Funny, there's quite a few of the English dogs that I like. Again, I tend to go with the ones that aren't overly exposed and the ones that will improve. Obviously, dogs that I've seen a bit of, that I'd focus on. But it's more men that I'd be looking at, or owners, should I say. The likes of Ray Dean and Paul Surridge have a very strong team there. The 3 or 4 dogs that they have. Deanridge Sirius is obviously well found in the market. You wouldn't see him as an outsider. Deanridge Rapid is now more found in the market than he was after a few very impressive trials. Deanridge Awesome. Nick and Amanda Gill have some very talented types. The Hopes Doggy Dog is trialed very well. His racing in Ireland wasn't exceptional, but it was notable that his last 2 lines of form in Ireland were trials at Shelburne Park, and he took off in both of them, and he's continued that form in trials at Nottingham. So it'd be very interesting to see how he goes. In terms of ones at biggish prices, I quite liked Balliard Ricky for Nathan Hunt. I thought he ran very, very well. It was only a maiden, I think, was at Central Park the last night, but I just liked the way he did it. Just gives me the impression of a dog that'll go further. Gonzo is well found in the market now at this stage, but I'm a big, big fan of him. And I think Kenny Glenn, who actually owns Gonzo, he has a very, very strong team. He Dearjet Sydney, Doolan Duke, Gonzo, Montine Usyk. These are all very, very fast greyhounds. I just wouldn't be surprised if Kenny had a runner in the closing stages of this year's Derby.
Yeah, we could have a Scottish owner, an Irish trainer winning an English Derby if Kenny was to win it with one of his Pat Buckley dogs, which would be something, wouldn't it, Ian?
Well, we could, but we also have an English trainer winning an English derby with an English owner representing Ireland. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
very possible.
absolutely. Absolutely, and you know there are. We'll touch on this throughout the derby, throughout these shows. But Ray Dean and Paul Sturridge, as you say, with their Deanridge prefix, Nick and Amanda Jewell, the Antigua dogs, and you know they've teamed up with other owners within Mark Wallace's kennel, the Bruisers boys, who have been there, of course, before themselves. They've had 2 Derby finalists a couple of years ago. A story that I liked, I'm keeping on the radar. One that I think you know it could go a long way in this year's derby is Southwood Jet for Richard Rees. Now Richard's family is steeped in history. His granddad won the derby, Phil Rees Senior, Mutt Silver in 1976. Richard's dad won it with Pagan Swallow in 1985, and he's bidding to become the 3rd generation. He's a 3rd generation trainer. Can he be a 3rd generation Derby winning trainer? And I think his Southwood Jet has got a great draw. Trap 1, Heat 13 on Saturday. Watch out for that one because, you know, that's a kennel that knows the time of day. They've got a lightly raced dog who could go a long way. Right, then, Ian, we've mentioned a few, perhaps not as many as we should have done, but we've mentioned a few. I'm going to put you on the spot. Just one dog. Give me who your idea at this point, ahead of the first round, is going to win this year's Greyhound Derby.
No, I'm going to give you 2 dogs, if that's okay.
Okay, right.
I'm going to give you a new in session, but as I said, you know, the juice is probably gone unless he does something very special in the opening round. But you know, as I've said, not quite the finished article, but he's the right profile, improving young and all that. I'm going to also nominate Doolan Duke, who happens to be his brother. I think he's a very promising dog. I think he could be made for Nottingham also, and I'm very impressed with the way he came back to himself in Derby final night at Shelbourne Park. And I think he's a dog that could very easily get to the closing stages of this year's Derby.
And so what you're saying is they're from the same litter, those two. So we might see them head to head at the end from the same litter. What story that would be?
Oh, well, I dare say Graham Holland and Pat Buckley would take that. You know, if you promised them a chance to go head to head in the final, they'd take it right now.
Absolutely. I'm going to chuck out a ground that you've already mentioned, actually, in Gonzo, who's got a real good engine. He starts and he stays. I think he's going to be a really hard dog to keep out the frame. He's already won a competition. He won the Gold Cup at Monmore. Julie Bateson, lovely trainer. You know, she's devoted her life to training greyhounds, and I think he's going to go a long way. So they're our 3. It was meant to be 1, but they're one each.
In fairness to Gonzo, he looks like whatever he achieved elsewhere, he'll only improve for Nottingham.
Yeah.
You know, he looks that type of greyhound. I really like him. Yeah, I really like him.
Okay, well, you can't have him as well. You got 2 already. So I'm going to go with Gonzo. Ian's picked 2. Toto only picked 1, but he's picked 2.
Well, they're from the same litter. So does that not...
Right. Okay, I suppose I'll let you have that. Right, what we're going to do every week, Ian, is we're going to take a little trip down memory lane, big moments throughout the Derby. It only feels right. This is the 2nd Derby to be staged at Nottingham. Last year was absolutely brilliant. So our trip down memory lane is not going to be one too far because we're just going to last year. But I thought it was a great example of what it means to win a Greyhound Derby for everyone involved, owners, trainers in particular. Paul Hennessy's Priceless Blake won it, and the pictures that we can see, you can catch, you know, the race and the reaction afterwards on YouTube. Just search Priceless Blake Greyhound Derby, I'm sure it'll pop up. The whole family was there. It was a real family occasion. Paul's been there before, but it still means so much, Ian.
Yeah, very much so. And you're talking... That's Irish Greyhound Racing and English Greyhound Racing summed up in one. It very much is a family affair. This isn't something that you go out as a lone wolf and you depend on employees. Like, you depend on family, friends, relations. And last year, very special scenes on the track. And of course, since then, Liam Dowling's son Shane, they finished 2nd in the Derby with Ballymactaz. Well, Shane and Paul Hennessy's daughter have since had a child together. They're partnered up, and what an achievement. You know, basically now the same family, 1st and 2nd in the English Derby.
Well, some strong breeding there. We might see a future champion greyhound trainer there. Well, Ian, it's been absolutely brilliant. We'll be doing these after every round of the Derby, so absolutely looking forward to that. I thank you all out there for watching and listening to Paws For Thought. Do try to like and subscribe the GB Greyhound Board of Great Britain YouTube channel. You know, there'll be plenty of content coming out as well. We're absolutely buzzing for it. I know you are, Ian. We've got 16 heats ahead of us. There's 96 at the moment. There'll only be 48 when we chat again next week. The big one is here, Ian.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a great few weeks.
Absolutely. Join us next time on Paws for Thought. Thank you for watching. Until next time.